Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another Future of Money video. My name is Denise Joe with Libra, and I am here with Doug Sleeter of the Sleeter Group to share a little bit about what they do for accountants and how they think digital currency will impact the accounting profession. Hi, Doug.
How you doing, Denitha?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Great. It's great to be here with you. It's a cool little series of sessions you have going, so I'm really happy you invited me. Thank you.
Thank you. And likewise, I'm so excited to be chatting with you. I've been following your work as well as your own video series as well, covering different thought leaders and change makers in the accounting profession.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can we start off with what you do as well as why you're so passionate about supporting accountants?
Well, yeah, the Sleeter Group I started 21 years ago now, which makes me, I'm not really that old. I started when I was 10. And, but anyway, it's a fun group. What we do is we focus all of our energies towards helping the accounting profession learn better best practices for how their clients can improve their business processes. So we serve the profession, but in our minds, it's the small business owner. Every day I think about the small business owner, and I think about how they're from their point of sale to their e-commerce sites to their accounting systems to their time tracking, CRM even. So I'm thinking about how they run their businesses, and I help the accountants learn about new technologies that they can recommend to those small business owners. And in doing all this, it really helps the accounting professional really up their game, if you will. Get with the program, get with the new technology. We can't do things the way we used to do it. We have to think about what's going on. It's almost all driven by technology, but there are other drivers too. It's the way clients want to work with us. They want to work with us differently than they have over the past 30 years. And so we've got to get with the program, or I'm afraid some of us are going to start losing clients way too fast.
That is a really interesting point that you brought up. And the Sleeter Group has an annual conference each year. And I know I was there for the first time last year and learned a lot. It was so exciting, learned a lot of information. And I want to touch on, you spoke about technology, but you also spoke about the way accountants engage with their clients and how that's changing. What have you seen over these last maybe 3 or 5 years and how that's shifting for the accountant?
Well, again, it feels like it's driven by technology, because technology enables us to do new things. And then take your mobile phone, for example. Well, 30 years ago we didn't have that, and then we had the phone, but we really didn't have the smartphone. So these things keep growing, and it sort of starts with the technology, and then it starts becoming demands of clients. So if I can't do things with my clients via mobile devices, or help clients who are in a business that requires their customers to either order products from mobile devices, or let's say they've got people in the field selling, and they're selling on paper? No, they have to take the orders on mobile devices, and that has to be connected into the accounting system. So yes, technology sort of is the foundation, but it certainly changes the way the clients are demanding services from the accounting profession. So if you don't know anything about mobile, or you don't know anything about e-commerce, or you don't really understand about social media, then you're just kind of irrelevant to the clients of today. And that means you start thinking about the business you're in. Am I really in the business of doing financial statements and tax returns? Well, fundamentally, most of us are at least associated with those things. But, those are the end result of efficient business processes. So if you can, as an accounting professional, think about your client more, understand they need a whole bunch of new things from you they've never asked for. Maybe they're afraid to ask you because maybe they think all you do is the tax return. And this is this impedance, if you will, between client and accountant that we're starting to see. We did a survey I know it's a long answer to your question, but we did a survey of what
Great.
SMBs want. We've done it 2 years. We've got another one in the market now. We're just about to come out with our new report. But last year we really learned about the importance of strategic advice to the clients. The clients really want their accountant to provide strategic advice. Now, what's strategic advice? Well, strategic advice is things that are not about the financial statement that looks back. It's more about how can I improve my process, improve my financial results. And then finally, it's proactive strategic advice. They don't want to just be able to ask you the question. They want you to be thinking about their business and proactively saying, hey, Denitha, I've noticed your margins in this particular product or service area have sort of been declining. Let's have a meeting. Let's kind of sit down and talk about how we can help you rethink that part of the business, or maybe even change pricing or kill products, discontinue products or services. All of these things are proactive services, and this is what our clients really want from us.
Exactly. And I love the way that you differentiated between helping our clients with the compliance and regulation aspects. That's so important to file our taxes, speaking of tax season, but also just strategic advice. How can we help you grow over this next year, over these next 2 years, and really using technology so that we're on top of the finances at a moment's notice and can give that key piece of advice that our business owners need.
Yeah. The access to the information in real time is really the goal. And what does that mean? What information? Well, it might be how many orders in my web store were abandoned today, or it might be, did I sell 20 units last month at this same point, but this month it's only 10 units or 200 or whatever. You got to be able to see in real time this information, because that's the only way you can really know what's going on in your business in time to be able to react to it and adjust your strategy.
Exactly. And to go along with strategic advice, one of the new things that's kind of popping out over these last maybe 5 or 7 years is this magic money or digital currency.
Yes.
Yes, which is a fascinating topic, and you've done some videos covering Bitcoin specifically. Can you tell us when you first learned of digital currency and what your initial thoughts were?
Well, it's actually when I first learned about digital currency was back in 2002 or something, when I met a guy who is very much, I think, responsible, if not very much the author of the Bitcoin product, and his name is Todd Boyle. And he talked about, he and I were really collaborating around how the cloud was beginning to come about and how the cloud would just change everything. And his focus was on payments. And his focus was on how every country in the world has its own currency, almost all countries. They have their own currencies, and they all manipulate those currencies, and they all, it's costly, high impedance between my currency and your currency if we have to pay each other, because there's transaction fees and delays and all those sorts of things. And he sought to resolve that by what he called a web ledger, so a ledger in the sky that my debit is your credit, and if we could just get to this place where we would both sort of subscribe to the same central ledger in a secure and trusting way, then we could provide for payments in a very low impedance way. So wouldn't it be cool if I could pay you? You started seeing this first with PayPal. I could pay you by just sending an email to you, right? And it transferred money from my sort of digital currency PayPal to your PayPal account, except that was all based in US dollars. And if you're overseas, then we've got those fees against that impedance. And so he's one level above that with the Bitcoin, because what Bitcoin allows us to do is really it has nothing to do with being based in any currency. It is its own currency, if you will. And of course, to get on the on-ramp, you have to, buy some Bitcoin, and that means you have to pay what its value is, and its value is all, at some point based back in dollars or yen or whatever your native currency is. But once you're in Bitcoin, now you're in this digital world, and you can trade back and forth with other Bitcoin wallets, which are people who have a wallet. You have a wallet, I have a wallet, and I can pay you there with no fees. So yeah, it goes back a long time. It's not new.
Sure. So back in 2002, you first heard of it. What was your initial thoughts then when you first heard of this concept? Yeah,
probably a lot like many people today. I was scared to death. The first reaction most people have to something like this is they're scared because they don't understand, and it's hard to understand. It's a sort of a technology, head that you got to have. I was scared because I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be impossible to get anybody to embrace, and the governments will hate it. Generally, they do today. But I was scared. At the same time, I saw the vision, and it's so elegant. If you think about, if we just didn't have these wallets with cash or even credit cards, because credit cards have these high fees associated with them and delays. What if we could just simply be able to say, it's almost like a barter system. If you and I want to barter some services, of course, forget the IRS for a minute. We can just agree to do something for each other. And, if we could then add not needing to actually barter, but we could pay each other electronically without any impedance, any fees, that would be really compelling.
So you were scared, but also just really excited about where we could go with this technology.
Yeah. And it's beyond just simply payments. To me, it starts to become the way business happens. So I would like to send you an invoice. Today, if I send you an invoice, I've got to transmit that to you. We don't do it in the mail anymore on paper, but we're doing it electronically. So, but usually, and we're a real believer in Bill.com. They're a company that really streamlines AR and AP. But even still, what happens today, if I send you an invoice, even if you get it electronically, you have to do something. And that something is some sort of turning it into a transaction of a payable to me. And I don't want you to have to do that. And this common web ledger, this common ledger in the sky could also apply to our my invoice is your bill. And one or the other of us types it in, but not both of us. And right now we're both typing it in. That's this thing we're getting closer and closer to.
It's so exciting to think about the possibilities of this technology. And from an accountant standpoint, just speaking along the lines of strategic advice, using digital currency is a lot less expensive than using a credit card or accepting credit card payments rather. Right. Or waiting possibly 45 days for payment.
Yeah.
So for an accountant to give this type of advice to maybe their e-commerce clients, you could save them a lot of money.
Yep.
In the long run.
Yeah, I mean, save them a lot of money in and I would just call it overall friction. Nobody has to go and they don't have to have these other things. Once we get in this digital world, paying each other and invoicing and paying each other is going to be really easy. And I think we all agree that it's too hard today. In fact, you and I are in the accounting business to some extent, and that's where a lot of time and effort is in recording transactions. And that sort of leads me to another point here, and that is that the bookkeeper of tomorrow is going to be very different from the bookkeeper of today. The bookkeeper of today spends a lot of their time, putting transactions in and recording them and job costing them and paying them and hopefully not printing checks and putting them in the mail, but sometimes, yeah. And that kind of job is going to go away. And so that scares, here, talk about fear, that instills fear in a lot of the bookkeepers of the world's eyes. But what they do is, don't think you're going to just die. Think of the opportunity to evolve your own services, just like we started off with. I mean, we can't do things the way we used to do it. We have to evolve our practices to new ways of working, and because our clients are going to demand it.
Sure, and yeah, it's the way you view it. It can be an exciting new adventure, or it could be something that's scary. And I wanted to hit on, so you talked about how the bookkeeper's role is changing. I want to talk a little bit about maybe the accountant and the auditor, especially with this ledger in the sky.
Yep.
Both sets of books are affected at the same time.
Yep.
Essentially, this information is public, so
Yep.
How does that affect the accountant's role of today as well as the auditor's role of today? Where do you see those roles changing in the future?
Well, it just kind of throws all the cards up and 52 card pickup, because it really does mean a whole new way of thinking about how all of the processes will work. It used to be very regimented, from transactions occurring to getting recorded in journals to getting posted to the general ledger to getting put into adjusted trial balance and then adjustments and then final trial balance and financial statements. That whole process is also just really under fire, because we're already today in a place where, as transactions occur, at least as they're recorded, there is a perpetual balance sheet and income statement and everything. That's been with us for some time. So what we're going to be taking out is the recording piece. More and more and more. So then when you think about audits and the accountant all the way through the tax, there's a whole new way that these people are going to need to think about and understand about how transactions are sourced. And I think the jury's out as to exactly how that will play out. But again, those people are very nervous about their practices and how they're going to respond. And usually when people are nervous, they resist. And the governments are resisting, Bitcoin, although the IRS has issued a few things about Bitcoin, for example, that just treat the transactions like you were paying with any currency. And if you make money or lose money at the currency transaction, then record it as a gain or a loss. So they're basically not good thing. They're not trying to prevent it or outlaw it in some way, as some countries have done. I think it's Russia that has just simply said, no, you can't use it in our country. Well, good luck with that,
Interesting. Yes, especially with the IRS ruling it as a property, that makes it quite a bit more difficult from a tax accountant's perspective. To really be able to track the basis of when you actually traded or used the currency and how much you actually gained or lost. Each transaction is similar to, I would say, possibly a stock then, and
it's kind of like a stock and it's kind of like a currency, yeah. But in any case, you have a basis and you have a gain or a loss. Although we've been using Coinbase.com. You're familiar with them?
I am, yes.
Yeah, and they have merchant tools where you can add, accept Coinbase on your website, Bitcoin on your website. And if one pays so say your website's accepting Bitcoin, you can turn it on so that it immediately gets cashed out into dollars. So you don't take the risk on the fluctuation of the currency throughout the day or week or month. So that's sort of a mitigation to, if you're so concerned about the fact that the currency fluctuates in value, then just simply cash it out every day. And, there's a tiny intraday risk, but it isn't nearly what it was.
That's a really good point that you brought up. You can keep it on your balance sheet if you want to, but if you are nervous about the volatility of Bitcoin, which there is volatility with anything that's new,
Yep.
you can cash it out each day and know that it's going to be worth whatever it should be worth at
Right.
that time.
And the fees to do that, the last I checked, you got to check me on this, but the fees to buy Bitcoins, I have to pay a percent to buy it, a percent to get into the Bitcoin platform, if you will. That's how they're making their money at Coinbase anyway. But then if I send it to you and you cash it out, there's nothing there in fee. Maybe there's a 1% on your side too, but in any case, the total then would be 2%, one for me, one for you. That's way lower than any credit card. Some credit cards are 1.9, but this is
most.
International. Not many, yeah. And they're not
Exactly,
instant.
and especially if you're working with companies internationally, that's a huge deal. If you're
right.
using maybe a Western Union or another way to transmit currency across borders.
Yep. So I like this whole thing. I understand why people are afraid of it. I understand why, banks are afraid of it. But I bet buggy whip manufacturers were really afraid of the car. What are you going to do?
You took it back. I love that. So along with that, I would love to close with maybe your thoughts on if you were running an accounting practice now, or if an accountant is listening to this, what would be your advice to him or her as far as how to stay on top of digital currency and what they can do to make sure that their practice is thriving years from now?
Well, I would go, we've got some articles at sleeter.com/blog. There's some blog posts that we've got about that'll help you understand more. So the first thing is learn about it. And don't make assumptions about it until you really learn about it, because it's not like anything else. It's not like buying futures in currency. It's just not like anything else. It's different. So there's no substitute for really knowing what you're talking about before you weigh in on what it is or isn't. And then your clients will come to you with respect, if you will, your thoughts on the topic. Also, from the typical traditional accounting firm, it's sort of like it doesn't matter. It's not on your radar, so you can opt out in the sense of, if it's on the balance sheet, you got to get the basis and the gain or loss. That's about it. Other than that, you can ignore it. But what I want to encourage you to do is just consider the opportunity to do that proactive strategic advice. Go in and help your clients who are or at least should be selling online, get their web store up, and have them consider accepting Bitcoin. And then there's a whole economy around setting clients up for these kinds of new technologies. And if you have the technical skills in-house to be that side of the consultant, so one, you got to just sort of advise. The other maybe is you're going to go do it. You're going to go get into their accounting and e-commerce systems, hook these things up, make sure that the data is flowing, something I call digital plumbing. Whole bunch of opportunity around providing digital plumbing links between various, think of them as connected chunks of processes in a client's business. The mobile apps, the e-commerce store, the accounting system, whether it's in the desktop or in the cloud. There's all these things going on, and the opportunity is for all of us to be the expert on it, provide the digital currency as well as the digital plumbing and the installation and support. It's a good business to be in, and it's here for forever. That part of it.
It is, yes. And you highlighted a new opportunity with these technological changes, is the digital plumbing and actually helping clients put these pieces together, which wasn't in existence, 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Doug, for your time today. And where can we, I know you mentioned your blog, but I wanted to hear it again, your website, as well as where accountants can find you and the Sleeter Group.
Yeah, sure. It's www.sleeter.com, and you can just click on blog right there. We also have a network which accounting professionals should join. This is a network of your peers. There's about 650, 750 people in there now. And Anita, you're in that group, and it's great to have you in there because you're seeing the value of the forum between practitioners, where you got a client that has a particular need, you haven't ever dealt with it before, or there's a bug in this software here. Has anybody dealt with it? Here's what they told me. Have you got a better answer? This is practitioners helping practitioners, professionals to professionals, and very, very high value for the person out there. Maybe you're on your own and just doing your own business alone in your house. One of the hard parts I love that, by the way, that's how I started. One of the hard parts, though, is you're in a vacuum and you just need somebody else to kind of every now and then check your information sources, and we want to be that for you. And we've got a lot of both educational materials, college textbooks on QuickBooks, and we've got other professionals that help you. We have an annual conference. I sure hope everybody comes to that. It's November 16th through 19th this year in Las Vegas, and it's the Accounting Technology Conference. It's called SleeterCon 2015, and you can see that on our site as well. We'll have almost 1,000 people there. There'll be a trade show floor full of all of these companies that provide those solutions that either tie together or mobile apps or whatever that you can recommend to your clients. So it's a fun thing, and you got to be there last year and participate in the flash dance or flash mob. That was fun.
Yes. It was so fun. Yes, accountants can have fun.
Yeah.
It was amazing, and it was such a good time to connect with people on the forum as well as on Twitter, just to see people in person and learn a lot of information about how we can improve our practices.
Yeah.
So thank you for all of your work that you do and for your time today. This is really good information as we continue to figure out what digital currency means for us as accounting professionals.
Great. Well, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.